You can replace them with just regular Allen screws, and they're 50 millimeters long. It's 6 millimeters by 50 millimeters long.
Alright, so now I'm going to back the pump head out of the body. Again, I've got this on cam, so we've got maximum spring pressure holding the plunger shaft up against the cam plate, and we've got spring pressure pushing the pump out for us. So we're not going to have to do any work to get the pump to come out of the head. It's all going to be done automatically by the spring. That's loose.
And can you see a gap opening up yet?
Yeah, there's our gap.
We're starting to get a gap right here, and this gap we're gonna watch this gap very, very closely, because we don't want that groove to come out. There's a groove on the head, and you can see it here with this other pump head that I have here. You can see that groove, and we're just backing the head out as far as we need to, just to get at that O-ring and that groove. We don't want to go any further than that.
Basically, once you get these two loose, they can be done by hand almost all the way out. You may need to put the wrench back on it a time or two, but essentially it's all hand force at this point. And you want to make sure you maintain an even gap all the way around. So just a little bit at a time on each screw. And here is the point where you would be making a big mess if you hadn't pulled a bunch of fuel out of the pump already.
Yeah, once you get that O-ring past the point of the body of the pump, then it'll just dump fuel out if you haven't if you haven't pulled it out somehow. I mean,
we're starting to see the O-ring here a little bit on that side. Starting to see it over there too. Now we can just look back here and see that we're still pretty solidly together here. The plunger shim is in no danger of coming out at this point, and we're almost all the way to the seal. The pump head is very solid. It's not moving at all. So I'm just going to continue to pull these loose until we can see most of the seal.
if you get a stop screw with your O-ring for this head seal, you can put it in one of these holes to keep you from going out too far. It's just kind of a guide to keep you from going out too far. But just have to eyeball it and just don't go out any further than you need to. I mean, you just need access to the O-ring. So you can see the O-ring right in there, and most of the time, you know, with an old pump, it's gonna be hard as a rock, or it's gonna be really, really, you know, stiff. So we're gonna get a hooked pick, and we're gonna just carefully, without doing the metal, is we're just gonna hook that O-ring with our hooked pick, and we're gonna dig it out of the groove without scratching the groove.
I got to bring my other pick.
You have a curved pick?
I have this. Oops.
See, went ahead and
the seal is broken now.
Broke the O-ring, which is fine. Sometimes they'll come out in several pieces because they're so brittle and hard. You just want to make sure and get the whole O-ring out. And it just came out all together like that.
That's very lucky of us.
Sometimes they come out in pieces. You just got to make sure that groove is completely open. So you can set it on a piece of cardboard here, and you know, get an idea of the diameter, and then set it against the O-ring that's going back in there to make sure you got it all. But you also use a mirror, you know, just to make sure that your groove is good and open.
Let's show that. So if you get a mirror down here, you can shine a light up in there, and it may be hard to see this on camera, but I can see very clearly. Even if I move the flashlight back around behind here, on the very bottom, this is your danger zone here, because the advanced solenoid is fairly close to the pump head, and makes it hard to get the new seal in as well as getting the old seal out, especially if it's continuously breaking into small chunks. which will happen on a very, very old seal.
So we have an open groove. We're all good to go on
Tape.
putting the O-ring back in. But first, we're going to go ahead and tape.
I'm gonna show
Put
this.
a band of
We need a piece about that long.
about a foot long
I'm just using my
of
teeth. And
duct tape, and it'll help when.
so what I do now is, obviously you can see that the tape is wider than the head itself. So I just find out
how wide it needs
on
to
the
be,
tape,
and then just make a little notch.
about that wide. Just tear down to a strip that's the correct
About
length.
2 inches wide is about right. Maybe
And
an
then
inch and 3/4.
You just kind of slip it around the bottom and bring it together on the top. Now we're ready to put the new seal in. So we've got this new seal here, and I like to put a little bit of grease on it. I just use a small amount of this axle grease and just kind of smear it between my fingers and just run the seal through it.
This will keep it from
Get it all
twisting
over
in the
there.
groove, and also make it to where when you pull the pump head back into the body of the pump, the O-ring will slide rather than catch and shave. You can actually shave a corner off, the side of the O-ring off if you don't have any sort of lubrication on the O-ring.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's very important to note at this point also that the pump head does not wobble significantly. It feels very firm, and that we've also got a good solid interface here. There's nothing loose in here except for that, which is never going to be tight. So I just take the new seal, and this is kind of the most difficult part about the job.
And it stretches an amazing amount. The seals are incredibly.
So it's dropped into the groove
Tight.
here. I'm just going to grab my T30 and try to get some of this grease off my fingers so I can actually manipulate the bit in my hands.
The seal that we're using is a Viton seal, which tends to regain its shape again better than the green seal that comes with the Bosch kit. And,
Gonna reach in here and grab the seal to keep it off the threads as I back this screw out.
so he's holding the seal away from the threads of the screw, and he's going to back the screw out. You're only going to back one screw out at a time, just enough to where the O-ring can be slipped back, let back into the pump.
And then I just drop it and it falls right into the groove, and I put the screw right back.
And that keeps the head from backing out too far.
And I get it down to where it's holding the pump almost until I see it start to move in a little bit. And as you move in here, you'll actually start to come out there, so it's good. You get a more solid hold, and you get yourself more room on the side you need it. So I'm going to do the same thing here.
You can use a bent paper clip for this. Also, and the reason why you hold the seal away from the threads is the threads, as they're rubbing across the seal, might actually scratch the seal, compromise the seal in some way. So you just hold the seal away from the threads of the screw. Pull the screw out, drop the seal back in the groove, put the screw back in, and hand thread the screw back in.
Now at this point you need to look with your mirror again and verify that you've got the new seal in there all the way around the full diameter of the pump, because if you don't, then it's likely that it's being held out by the advanced solenoid, and when you try to install the head back into the pump, you're gonna destroy the seal. So let me actually get right there.
So with your mirror and a flashlight, just get the mirror up under there and verify with
Helps to actually take the tape off at this point too, because you don't need it anymore.
Yeah, the tape is on there just to keep the O-ring as clean as possible when you're dropping it in.
Yes, it's perfectly set in its groove.
So the
All the way around.
seal's in the groove.
And then you can just run it all the way back in by hand, just like you pulled it out, just a little bit at a time. And, you know, noting regularly throughout the procedure that you haven't changed anything in here that's going to give you a problem. And this takes a little bit of time. That's where your grease is helping right here, is when you're sliding this guy back in.
So you want to pull the head in really evenly.